right, we are live. Hello, everybody. Just frozen. Okay, no, it's come back. You were frozen for the first 3 seconds of the stream.
Now?
Hi, everybody. We have Cody and Jas, who is a special guest today. Welcome in. I'm gonna say hi to the people in chat first. Hello, Jas was first. I wonder why. I was able to see the future with we were going to be live soon. Also, Sena, welcome in. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you being basically the first official person in chat. Federica-chan as well, and Mak-chan, never missing a beat. Welcome in.
Yes.
Hello, also Elma, Das, welcome in, and Yubi. Hi. I know it's a little late for Yubi, so I hope you're cozy and unwinding a little bit, and that you had a nice day. Also, Joanna, Sydney-chan, hi. Welcome in. Feel free to write in chat at any time. There's never a bad time to write in chat, so no worries. Feel free to write everything you think at any moment, and we're gonna come back to your comments. Oh my god, Haru is here as well. Hi. Welcome in. All right. So I'm speaking because I'm the technical person of this stream. Always I take care of technical stuff. So if anything is wrong, like music, or you cannot hear something, tell me so I can fix it. And I'm gonna say, first of all, we have Cody here, who is one of the Gladly Global bosses, because because we are so cool and we have bosses. So Cody, I think if you want to introduce yourself first, and then we're gonna introduce our guest.
Okay, so hi guys, you might recognize me from I don't know, the internet, and I think I've done 1 or 2 of these live streams before, but I am Cody, and I tend to deal with more wordy stuff related to Gladly Global, so editing articles, editing the magazine, writing posts, and so on. I'm sometimes over Twitter as well. So yes, nice to see everyone here, and we hope that we have a good time going forward.
Yeah.
And then we have a guest today, Jazz. Everyone give a round of applause for Jazz. On-time member. And Jazz, I'm gonna allow you to introduce yourself.
Okay. Yeah, so a lot of you probably have also seen me on like Discord or on a streams probably. I'm Jazz there, but my name is Jasrael. That's my full name. Jazz is fine. It's difficult for many people to say. So nickname is fine. I've been a member of Gladly Global for over 2 years now, I think. Yeah, I guess I have a role as a language leader for Japanese, and I've contributed to the magazine, the last issue for the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, but tell more about yourself, what you do in your life, Jazz, because it's interesting.
Yes. So I'm a PhD student. I'm in my 4th year, and I focus on second language learning. And my research kind of looks at how anxiety affects second language fluency, how anxiety consumes attentional resources, so your ability to pay attention to something. And because anxiety is influencing your attention, it's really hard to come up with the vocabulary and the grammar structures that you need to actually speak. So I kind of do experiments to look at the detail of what's going on within that whole system. And my next study is looking at that with the addition of like the listener aspect. So I want to see how listener behavior affects that whole thing. So how does listener behavior affect anxiety, and then how does that affect fluency? So I'll have some people helping me out and showing different types of behavior to my participants to see, how that affects them.
It is such a nice thing to research on. I feel like it's often overlooked aspect of like learning languages is how it puts you out of your comfort zone, right? And it's definitely an interesting topic, and just I can't wait to see your final research if you
Yes.
can publish it. And then yeah, but Just also did, you forgot to mention this, but Just also did an event, a speaking event for Gladiator Global,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
You remember? So we have also this kind of events sometimes where we do a little seminar about a certain topic. We call in a guest, or we do them ourselves as well, based on our own research and topic of interest. And those are very nice. We don't do them too often because it's a lot of work to do to make them to make them come well, like, so that they're actually informative and not just, you know, done to be done every month or something like that. But it's definitely an interesting thing. I also remind everybody that if you're wondering where the community comes together for this kind of things, we have a Discord server. You can find the link down below, of course, but I can send it over, no problem. So this is the place where everybody finds me, by the way. I didn't introduce myself today because I am famous like this. I'm just kidding. But,
You are though. You are though.
no, I am the person that stays on Discord a lot, so I will answer to every message because I am always there. But I also do co-working streaming, so a lot of people know me because of that, because we hang out together when we study. And yeah, so one thing that that we need to speak about today is what the last thing that we did. The last thing that we did, right, Cody, is the magazine that we made.
Yes,
That was,
everyone, another round of applause
yes,
for our recent magazine drop. Thank you again to the community. This was it was a lot of work, but also still really fun to put together. And we actually had 3 guests for this issue, including Jazz. Our other 2 guests were Tara Downs, who is a poet and a writer, and then we also had Susanna Missenberger, who is a visual artist, muralist, and model, actually. But yes, so we got a lot of exciting perspectives, which was really good because our theme was on cultural compasses, or how language and culture together work to influence our world and also can inform our studies. So having these different perspectives, it was like, really cool. It kind of highlighted that our multicultural creed that we kind of wanted to focus on with the magazine in the first place. So yes.
Did anybody in chat? Yeah, it's fine. Did anybody in chat get the magazine, by the way? What were your impressions? Yes. Did you like it? Feel free to write in chat. And this is the magazine. It's appearing here on my side, by the way. I don't know if Cody and Jasrael cannot see. So I'm just waving my hands. It's here. Wow! With a beautiful art by Natalie One on Instagram, which definitely check her out. She's amazing. Yes, and I wanted to spend some words here. I'm gonna come back to Jazz in a second because Jazz wrote for it, so we're gonna speak about that. I just wanted to spend some words speaking about how crazy of a journey it's been to make the magazine. I think it was a Ray's idea at the beginning, and I wasn't part of the first 3, by the way. And Ray was just like, we're gonna write a magazine, and then we were like, yes, we're gonna write a magazine. How about that? Every 3 months or so. And I have to say, looking back, I have no idea how we made it so awesome, because
10 issues, 10 issues is a lot.
I honestly, crazy, like, because we worked so hard on it, and I'm like, we need to make it so good, and we kind of like have a breakdown because we work so long at it and so much, and so you don't realize how awesome it is until after some months you look back at it and you're like, like I did. I did.
So if you guys had read the issue, and I hope you have, if you haven't yet, please head to our Ko-fi store and order it. But this 10th issue is actually going to be our last one for a little bit. And we did a spread in the magazine with all 10 of them and like what the themes are, because they're essentially guidebooks in a way, because they all revolve around a particular theme and give study tips, different cultural perspectives, different language perspectives, and also even art pieces that are around the same theme. And so, we kind of had that and all the descriptions and everything. And me, as I'm kind of like the proofreader, so I was proofreading. I was like, god damn, this is amazing. We did this, like that's us, like, because when you see it all listed out like that, it gives you a really appreciation for not only how far we've come, because you can literally see it in like even just in design and the descriptions of the different issues, not only how much we've grown, but just it's a lot of work to put together, and it's a big collaborative effort. There's so much that goes into it, whether it be on the design side or on the writing side, or including community members, because the community of course inspires us a lot with what we kind of choose to gravitate towards and write. So yeah, it was really satisfying to see the big spread. If you want to see the big spread, go
Here
check
it
out the
is.
magazine.
I sent it out. I sent it over. It's the latest issue. And we have here a very special guest who is Jazz, who for the first time wrote for the magazine. But I have to say, because I edited your article design-wise, right? So I have to say that your article was the only one that had like references and a clear bibliography, I think it's called in English, right? So you could say that literally, like, there is a lot of knowledge and research behind those lines, which is clear in your article. And we know already that you are a PhD student, so that makes a lot of sense. Do you want to let us... Oh, so first of all, your article is called Language, Space and Time, right? And I wanted to ask you, where did you get the inspiration to write about this, and what kind of things you wanted to... If you want to, like, briefly summarize for the people that didn't buy the magazine and want to know a little bit about what we're talking about, and your thoughts about this, if you can share. Thank you.
Yeah. So the article, for those of you who haven't read it, is basically about how different cultures conceptualize time and space differently. So it discusses how some cultures will see the past as being behind us. Like in English, we'll say, oh, the worst is past, everything good is, here to come. But other languages and other cultures see the past as something in front of us because it's something that we know, it's something that we can see, whereas the future is behind us because we don't know what the future is yet. We cannot see like what is coming. So it's little examples like that with space and with time, and just kind of giving examples how, your language kind of reflects the cultural, perspectives of the world. I kind of got the idea for this because when I was doing my master's degree, and it was a master's in psychology and education, and I knew that I wanted to do something with languages, but I wasn't sure like what exactly to study, because the field with psychology, with language learning and second language acquisition is so big. I was just kind of exploring whatever interested me. And the first thing that I guess that caught my attention was the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which is a hypothesis that says, the language that you speak determines the way you think. It's not that kind of like hardly determined in reality, but just the fact that when I learned Japanese, before that I was learning Japanese, I studied Japanese, and I was living in Japan for a while, and I kind of noticed that when I spoke Japanese, I would kind of feel a bit different. And I would act differently than I would speaking English, like in America, and it kind of interested me because I related to what they were saying in the research. And so I did a lot of research on that, like how, language can influence people's different thoughts. And I came across articles that were saying even how like the gender in different languages might influence the way somebody perceives something. So I came across an article where they looked at speakers of, I think, Spanish, German, maybe another language, but they would ask them to like describe a bridge, for example. and the languages that in which the bridge was feminine, they would describe a bridge as being elegant or as being like beautiful, whereas languages that had the bridge masculine would say that it's hard, it's sturdy, it's reliable. So they even have like different kind of
That is interesting.
based on something as abstract as the gender of the noun in their culture.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Sorry, can I interrupt? Because when you were saying they asked to describe a bridge, so I was thinking, how would I describe a bridge? And it's masculine in Italian, and I was thinking strong and solid. So, so it just proven that. Just proven that. Is it masculine or feminine in French? Cody, do you know bridge?
It's masculine, le pont.
Okay, so it's the same probably.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Oh my, you bamboozled me. It's like, I'm gonna prove just wrong. Instead, no. You got me.
When I first read your piece, I found it so intriguing, because there's a part where you talk about the perception of, as you mentioned, the perception of the past and the future, and what kind of orders that. So even the idea that like an English speaker might see things as something as before, or like the future being something we're facing and moving towards versus something that is behind. Or you talked about an experiment or a study where they had different language speakers basically place pictures in the order of progression. And so some cultures ordered them from left to right. Hypothetically, maybe other cultures that's right from right to left would put it the other way. And then there are some indigenous groups that actually they ordered it according to the cardinal points, like north, south, east, west, depending. And so like having that perspective of like how it literally can it's kind of mind-blowing, right? How we take for granted that language, of course, is a really big part of our lives, but the fact that you can actually not only change our mental perspective, but also our physical perspective, how we even feel like we're inhabiting a space. I like that part a lot. So yes, another shout out.
When I was editing that, of course we need to read the articles when we edit the design, right? So I was reading it and I was thinking about one thing that my professor told me last semester. So my professor is a researcher in Okinawa, and he promotes the Okinawan language. If you don't know, Okinawa is part of Japan. That is the last islands on the south, let's say southwest. So it's a tropical place, so tropical archipelagos that is completely different from the rest, the inland Japan, let's say. So culturally and linguistically, it has a very rich heritage that is about to be lost because of many reasons. People don't believe in that Okinawan language is important as Japanese language, for example. So my professor is a very big promoter of Okinawan language studies in Okinawan Islands, which is very interesting per se. But he told us that there are tens and tens of Okinawan languages, so it's not only one. And in some of the small islands, they don't have a word for left and right. They only have a word for towards the sea or towards the mountain, which, if you think about it, in a small island makes a lot of sense. They don't need to. It's very confusing to say left and right when you can just have big natural perspective points, like the mountain and the sea. That's clear for them, right? So I was thinking about this when I was reading your article. And it's true that we develop language, right, based on the place where we live. And right now in a globalized world, there's also another thing, sorry if I speak a lot, but there's also another thing that we learned last semester. There are some languages that are modernized, they say, and languages that are not. So modernized languages can be translated, can translate any word of modern languages. So in this case, this Okinawan language in particular wouldn't be considered modernized because they don't have words for left and right, which are such basic concepts for modernized languages, right? And those are some reasons why they are not used as much by the younger generations, because they cannot be used at the same level, if you pass me the expression, because it's completely different. At the same level, which is not a classification.
It can't relate the experiences that they might want to
it's
share.
We now live in a world where we know of concepts of other cultures as like so much that if we cannot express them in our own language, we will eventually adopt those terms, or it will be adopted by our culture and language to a degree. I'm thinking about how 30 years ago Italian people didn't know what sushi was, but now they know, right? Yeah. So there are those changes, and I feel like if a language kind of falls behind, this is also why it gets used less and less, which is one of the bad things of globalization, right? In my opinion as well. Okay, so that was a very long rant to say.
It can't actually just be preserved, even if the people who speak that language might feel, hindered in their language when comparing to talking to people in the global world. It should at least be like preserved so it doesn't like die out. I think the dying out of languages is like the saddest thing.
Yeah. There are some, actually, so it's always the same professor told me that he went to Hawaii to speak about this research that he was doing. And in Hawaiian University is forbidden to speak in English. So they can either speak in Hawaiian or Japanese. So my professor went there. Everybody can understand in English there, of course, it's the US. But in this, I don't know if it's like a specific university that is about languages. I don't think it's everywhere like this. But in this university, he went and he had to do his lecture in Japanese because it's forbidden to speak English. So they can preserve their own language.
I love it though.
I love it as well. It's very interesting.
I want to visit.
Yeah. So next, we will see Jazz Honolulu doing lectures in Japanese. Yeah, it's very interesting, right? All these kind of things. I don't know, Cody, do you have something to add, maybe? Or Jazz, since we're talking about this now. Or Chat. What do you think?
Yes, well...
No, Chat is probably just listening like podcast style, but I say this right now, so I invite you, if you have some thoughts in your mind, feel free to share. We're gonna read everything, and we're here to learn as well. And I'm sure there are a bunch of people in chat there like studying about this or have a personal experiences they want to share. So feel free.
And also, if anyone has a question about the magazine or Gade Global, or if you even want to ask what the hell is this, we will answer it. So feel free to interact in the chat below.
Yes.
I'd be really curious if anyone in chat has like an example of something like in their language or culture that isn't, I guess you can't express globally. That's like kind of shows the different perspective that their culture has compared to English. I'd be really curious to know if anyone has examples of that.
Yeah, because there's also like the contrary, right? So we say modernized languages are kind of like have all these words that maybe some cultures don't have. Well, what about the country where modernized languages don't have words that our cultures have, right? That's very interesting. Right, yeah. Because thinking of, I can, like anybody, but right now, probably not, sorry. I was assuming, but a lot of people might know the Japanese word for komorebi, right? Just, do you want to explain what komorebi is?
Komorebi?
So, yes.
Do you remember? The light?
Yes.
Sparkling light of the sun.
Yeah, so it's the light of the sun through the leaves of the trees, right?
Yeah.
When you look up, like, and it's like
the little sparkles or like the glitters of.
Yeah. That's a word that's not in English. We just spent 3 sentences to be able to explain that. But also more funnily, there's a word in my native language, which is Venetian, that doesn't exist in Italian or English, I think. And it's a word for specifically bird poop. I don't know if you have it in English, actually. I never searched for that. But we have a word for that. And I thought it was Italian for so long until I met people from other regions of Italy. And I was like, oh my God, be careful. There's, and the word that is 𝕤𝕤𝕤, by the way, if you want to know. And people were like, sorry, what? And then I discovered it's actually not Italian, which is interesting. What about Jamaican? Do you have words for things? What about patois?
Oh, definitely. Oh, we definitely do. I think that that would be a part of like any language in that sense, just because, just like how, you know, you as a family or within a friend group, you might have your own signifiers, right, or different inside jokes or ideas. I think that is something you can find anywhere. It's kind of hard to think about right now on the spot, but one unique thing about Jamaican language, like the spectrum, is that there's a lot of code switching that happens, and you tend to mostly recognize it when you're kind of put in a position where you really can't communicate in that way. So as you guys may know, because we've kind of talked about it before, we have Jamaican patois or Jamaican Creole, and then there's also English, and there's also a lot of different I would say ranges of dialects within patois and English and so on, and so there definitely is that there are some words that are sometimes just not translatable, or we just use a word that is similar but or like the same word itself, but we use it completely differently. Like, for example, a word like hush, right? I will have friends, you know, from abroad, and when they get hurt, like say they stub their toe or they got a cut, and I go, oh, hush, 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 man, hush. And they think I'm telling them to shut up. They go, excuse me? Excuse me? And I'm like, oh, no. Actually, that's the nicest thing I could possibly say to you. Like in Jamaica, if a baby gets hurt, we say, hush, man, hush, baby.
Yep.
You know? Or a word like drop. When like I guess people use fall instead. So when someone is walking and they trip, and Jamaicans are actually very notorious for saying, like, giving the warning after it has happened. So the person falls and they trip and they fall, and then you go, oh, don't drop, or mind it drop. Right? And I remember my friend, she tripped and I had said, oh, mind it drop, and she said, drop what? I was like, yourself. You know, so there's all these different specificities that will come from culture in that way, which are always entertaining.
We were actually this reminds me that we were talking about tension, that in Japanese have a completely different meaning than in English. So in English it means like when you're nervous, you're tense, right? There's tension in this room, something's wrong, maybe, I don't know. And in Japanese, tension means hype. So when
like
tension,
kind of excitement mood.
Yeah. So if you say tension agatta, so the tension got up, it means, oh, the hype is growing or something like that. It's so funny. There are these kind of words, right?
If your tension is low, it means you don't have much energy. And you're kind of like not excited.
No, but my tension is short. They literally say short. It's so funny.
Oh, yeah, short or tall.
Short or tall. Yeah. Tall tension.
Short tension.
I think we've got some comments in the YouTube chat. Anna, do you want to read them?
Let's go. Yes. Joanna says, for example, I'm from Bulgaria, and a couple of days ago I shared in Anna's server a celebration that only in our country has on the 1st of March. Yes. I don't remember what is the name. What was the name? It was Baba. So it's a celebration. I'm gonna read it since I have it here. By the way, because it was very interesting. Let's see. I shared it in the word wisdoms. I remembered. Yes. So the beginning of March, on March 1st, everyone in Bulgaria says wishes for health, love, and a good harvest. This is the time when Bulgarians exchange amulets, the so-called Bulgarian, I'm gonna butcher it, 𝕤𝕤𝕤𝕤, and tell each other Chestita Baba Marta, which means Happy Granny March, which is adorable. And they have these little dolls they are red and white, which reminds me of the Japanese Hinamatsuri that is also, it was like yesterday or something. Japanese people, yesterday they exchanged little dolls, or they put little dolls on the altar to for good future for girls, I think, for their daughters or something like that. So it's very interesting to see these little links. Yes, that's very nice. I don't know, Just, do you want to read what Makchan wrote?
So he says, we have Salesian, I hope I said that correct, dialect that struggle here to become a recognized dialect that can be implemented into proficiency tests at the end of high school. Basically, Salesian is used in the region, but each city has different alternation of words, so they are the same word but changed in speech. So it can't be like placed in the dictionary. So those words can't be placed in the dictionary, so they can't be placed in the exam.
Yeah, we have kind of the same problem in Italy. I think a lot of places in Europe have that language that is official to the country, and then everywhere there are dialects. And even like in Italy, we have so many official languages, and like German is an official language in Italy, I think. Because in the north they refuse to speak Italian because those were
no, but can I Anna, can I actually say that's actually very timely you mentioned that, because I actually I started this Netflix series about Formula One called Drive to Survive a couple weeks ago, and in it there's one of the team managers who he speaks in a very German accent. At least that's what I was interpreting. I was like, that sounds like German accent, and then they said he was Italian. I was like, how? What? And apparently he's from the mountains, so he's from the northern part, and I guess near to the border of Austria or whatever. And he comes from a place where they speak German in their community. And that blew my mind. I was like, that's wow.
But you meet also a lot of Swiss people who speak perfect Italian. They're just Italian but with money. It's incredible. They do everything Italian. They speak Italian, but they live in Switzerland, so they have better everything and more money. It's very crazy. We have these things on the border, especially because the border changed a lot in the last 100 years because of the war, right? So that's why we have this in Italy, especially. Jon also said globalization is a great thing, but on the other hand, countries which are less globalized can better preserve their typical traditions without seeing them spread and lose its origins. There is also an interesting thing to say. I think there's no bad thing in spreading, but there is a bad thing in losing them. Like, so it gets spread somewhere else, but it's lost in the original culture.
Or it's changed and misinterpreted.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I think I actually write an article that kind of touches on this very briefly, because the reality is that there are power dynamics at play, right? It's not just language and culture like living in the bubbles by themselves. There's a lot of politics, there's a lot of history that goes into why we speak the language we speak, and you know why our cultures are the way they are. And I think that to kind of bring it back to something what Mako said earlier about the fact that, you know, you might not be able to dictionaryize a language, how that it can be hard to standardize. I think one of the problems or one of the challenges that within the last couple hundred years or whatever is the idea that if it's not something that can be written, or if it is not written, it doesn't exist, or it is not as valid. So you have cultures that have are very literary cultures where they're right, a literate culture, but then you have a lot of other cultures that are oral. So we're talking about histories, we're talking about family genealogy, we're talking about stories and myths that are all passed down through centuries of years. just simply by word of mouth and oral like bookkeeping. In a way, you'd have people who would learn these stories so that they could pass them on. And if you think about it, we live in a time where a large percentage of like the human race is literate, right? Where people are expected to go to school, people are expected to know how to read and write, right? However, there was a time where that wasn't necessarily the case, you know. And so would you say then that whatever culture that they had, or the things that they enjoyed, aren't as valid because they didn't necessarily write them down or so on? So it creates like when you think about it that way, it creates like an interesting dichotomy, where yes, writing is amazing, and it can be good for keeping record, but a part of our mandate in terms of appreciating all cultures is to recognize that there are other ways to exist, and there are other ways for language and culture to communicate information and knowledge, and to build that type of connectivity, right? And so this is where like community also becomes really important. Like, do we feel as connected to our elders in our community, who are often sharing their information and their experiences orally? Not everyone is writing a book, yeah. Are we connected to our children, like the children in our communities, when we teach them things, like when we interact with them? So yeah, these are all big considerations that you can keep in mind, I think, as we look into the questions of why some cultures or languages are stronger, why some seem to be dying out. It could be a matter of perspective in that way.
Yeah, there is going back to Okinawa, just because it's one big example of what we're talking about. It's they have studies about how many people can speak Okinawan. So they would ask questions in Okinawan to elderly people, and then let's say middle-aged people, and then young people, right? And it's very clear how the language is still alive for elderly people, but has been lost for young people. And this, for the Okinawan case in particular, after the Second World War, there was a moment of invasion, let's say, so of the US, from the US. So in that moment, English was the most important language. It was important to know English, and Japanese as well. Okinawan was not regarded as important to be known. So the elderly people at the time, young people, when they had children, they were like, oh no, you need to learn Japanese and English. It's not important that you learn Okinawan. So they would not speak Okinawan to them. And this is like, the interesting thing about this is that it's most of the time a political thing. So the reason why a language is lost is not because people themselves think that it's not important, but because there is some kind of indoctrination by the government or like by the nation that says, oh, it's not, you shouldn't consider this as important as the standard Japanese or English or whatever. And I think this speaks probably to all of us to a degree, because I also live that in my own region of Italy. My native language is not recognized by the Italian government, even though it's a protected language by NATO. Sorry, not NATO, UNESCO. My bad, sorry. UNESCO. That was like a big brain fart. My bad. Yeah. So by UNESCO, so there are so many people who speak this language worldwide, even in South America. So it's not only an Italian thing, and it's sad, right, that we lose some things because of this, because of political reasons.
Yeah, I think in some situations, especially in the US with like the indigenous people, it wasn't that English was more important, but I think some places they were just forbidden to speak their native language. Yeah. So it was kind of like forced for them to adopt English and adopt the major culture, and they had really no choice but to kind of abandon what they grew up with, which I think is even more sad because compared to just choosing. At least you have a bit of a way to secretly protect it if you want to, but if you're just forced to speak the other language, then like what can you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also a
So
problem in Jamaica, right, with the patois. At least I think I heard
so
with.
in terms of yes, so in terms of like how patois is treated, so there's actually a big like almost a revival, or there's the work by the Honorable Louise Bennett Coverley, who is a dramatist and a writer, and a radio presenter. She's like amazing. She should be one of our national heroes. We love her to bits, and every cultural day it's a Miss Lou Day. She wrote actually a lot about this type of tension with language, and she actually did a lot of work towards reclaiming patois as a language, because for us, it was a similar situation of settler colonialism that comes in and wants to institute its culture and erase everything else. So even nowadays, there are people who are looked down on for speaking patois, or patois is really embraced in like the explicitly cultural aspects like music and dance, or it's so nice to export, the image of the Jamaican, the speaking patois, and having fun on the beach and is a rasta and everything like that, right? So it's very lucrative for the government and for the culture to project that idea, but on the ground it can be looked down on in a really stupid way in the end, which is kind of sad, which kind of also leaves people from feeling a bit disconnected. But luckily, in our case, the majority kind of are connected to the language and culture in that way, and so it still prevails. But in the more official sectors of things, it's not as embraced as it should be. Like a very interesting thing happened, by the way, in the courts. This, I think it was this week or the week before. There was a court case, and there was it was a Chinese shop owner. So he's an immigrant to Jamaica, and he's on trial for something. I think it was something to do with the wares that he was selling, whether or not they were authentic or not. And can I tell you guys that he did not know English, but he knew patois.
Yeah.
Like they were asking him the questions. The judge was speaking to him in English, and he was not understanding. And someone suggested, "Hey, try. So you have to speak to him in patois. He doesn't really understand English." And from they started in patois, the session actually went on. And so you have quotes, you have patois quotes in the court,
That's so funny.
right? Which kind of which is it's really amusing to think
Yeah.
about. But that's a reality. There are a lot of people who do not have as much access to society as they should, whether it be to banks or to the courts, because they simply don't understand uh, what is being said, or they aren't being understood. There's another sad case where I think it might have been in the British courts, where um like a man was speaking and they didn't have a translator for him, and so they actually misinterpreted something he said and took it as an admission of guilt when it wasn't. It was the complete opposite. So it's very complicated, but again, it shows you that these things have very practical consequences.
Yeah. We were talking earlier about how there is like how a language to be officially recognized, etc., has to be written, or there has to be record, and instead if it's only oral, it's not as considered as like founding or like important to a degree. And I feel like that is true also when you were talking about this. There are many people that immigrants in my region that come from North Africa, let's say, and a lot of them might work in factories maybe, so they have contact with people that don't really speak Italian very well, so they speak only Venetian language, and they will learn Venetian language before Italian. It's very funny to hear, because we're not used to people coming to our country and learning not Italian as a first language, right? So I get what you mean. I feel like I know it less than them sometimes, because I don't speak it as much. So that's interesting. But that doesn't mean that So it means that this way, like communicating, is also important, right? So it to me, like being able to express ourselves better sometimes with people that we have around using a specific language makes the language more even more valid to my in my opinion. Yeah, let's see.
Okay, so I think there might be a quote, but also I want to point out that we don't have that much time left. So we're gonna get to talking about the spring cleaning and updates in the title soon. Maybe we should talk about the message in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a message from Sena Varda, who is letting us know that they type we also have Nevruz or Novruz. I hope I'm pronouncing that okay enough. In order to celebrate the beginning of New Year from the Central Asia days of Turkish people, which is now not an official not an official holiday or festival or fest, but still celebrated by most of the country. You see, that stuff is really cool, and I'm glad that you guys have been able to keep that alive, going on, because you know it's like if we were to follow being something being recognized by the government or recognized by whatever institution, we'd lose a lot, I think, whether it be art or literature. And who knows, later on in a couple of years there might be a renaissance of these different practices and different cultural artifacts that bring it back into relevance in that way, so yes, that's nice to hear.
I just wanted to say something about Cody. Your story about the Chinese man in court reminded me of something that came up when I was doing my research, looking at how language kind of affects thought. And I was coming across some research that was showing that speaking in someone's second language is a way of kind of distancing yourself from emotions. So for example, like, I guess like cursing in a second language might feel less intense than in your native language, or saying something, expressive like I love you in a second language feels less sincere than in your first language. And so along with those lines, I was coming across some research in psychology, law, and language, and they were saying that if someone is giving a testimony in their second language, because of that emotional distance, it's easier for them to lie in court, because they're kind of like distanced from it. So it's just it kind of made me think of that, and I was kind of wondering, with everyone else's experience using a second language, like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, would you feel that? Do you feel that speaking in a second less intense?
I do feel that I am way bolder in English, for example, than in Italian, because I feel like I can say whatever I want to a degree. I don't know how to express. And in Italian, I feel like I'm more I've more control over every nuance of what I'm saying. So I am very much more careful, let's say. So this definitely, it's true for me. So
for me, it's a bit different, I think, but I still feel really shy when I speak French, and I think it's partly because I think I can really express myself well in English, and so when I go to French, I actually feel more frustrated than anything, and so that actually makes me a bit more timid. So, but there is a difference in feeling, at least in the very least. And then I don't usually find myself making expressions of love in French.
What about like cursing in French? Anger.
But I do understand how that might be, and it's really funny because I think that I guess because I'm not really I don't know, I swear quite a bit, but I would say the where my in terms of swearing, where I feel most evocative, where I feel like I'm actually getting that much of a release, that would happen mostly with patois, and which is nice because not everyone might be able to like get what the intensity of what you're saying, but yeah, so there are different levels. I do notice different levels
For
depending
me,
on
for some reason, I feel like if I were to swear in Japanese, it feels less offensive for some reason. Like, it doesn't feel, but I guess it's because they don't have as like
as many
harsh
yeah.
words either,
Yeah.
but still, like, I feel like it's nothing. But when in English, it feels like, oh, am I gonna offend someone, or like, you know?
maybe it's the how you we've grown up with things. Because think about it, like
Yeah,
a lot of our shames, and when I say shames, I mean like the things that make us want to participate in society, like according to the rules.
Mhm.
So when you're young, you're taught, you need to shower, maybe you need to maybe put on deodorant, you maybe need to say good morning and good evening or whatever, is your experience. And if you don't do that thing, you know you might, even as an adult, you might feel weird about it. So maybe it's because you grew up
yeah.
Mhm.
with
I
a
did
certain
grow up
idea.
in an area where, like, or in a family, a community where, like, we're supposed to be polite and not curse, and so I think that definitely has, like, an influence.
Yeah, it's like you feel your mother behind your head
Yeah,
when it's
yeah.
about to tell
But if
you.
it's in Japanese, she doesn't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have a
Right, right,
Japanese mother, so I can't just say bad things. Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah.
Like sometimes in English, I would say some words and people would be like, "You can say that? Like what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, because it doesn't feel like." Sometimes I see videos of people that get very, very like, "Oh my God, they said that word," and to me, it doesn't feel anything different. Like same flower of or that word that I don't feel that. That feeling of I'm saying something wrong. So that's also like a big problem when it's something you need to know what the word mean, other than like it mean to the people that are listening to it, more than like the actual meaning. Yeah,
How it's
I
perceived
struggle
in the
with that.
community.
Yeah, I struggle with that a lot sometimes, and yeah, it's good to keep in mind. Yes, yeah.
Maku says that he says I am way kinder in English than Polish. At this point, many times when I can't express myself in Polish, I mix English, hoping the person I speak to will know English enough or at all.
I do that too, but
So
not
when
on
we see
purpose.
Maku speaking English, we're getting the kindest version of them.
Yeah, no, right. I was thinking that. But Mako is kind, so yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
I think at this point in time, we want to switch to the spring cleaning and updates side of things,
Yeah. So
right?
there's no Ray today, which is probably the person that is updating most of the things. But we already gave you some insights. So first of all, for the people that might have joined right now, we're gonna say we were doing a conversation starting from Jasrael's article in our latest issue of the Polyglot Magazine, the Cultural Compass. Yes, it's on top of your head, just perfect. So,
Is it on this side?
and not the other. Yeah, okay, you got it now.
This side.
Yes, here we go. And which is a publication that we right now it's suspended. So this is the latest issue for a while, just saying. But this is a 10th issue, so we have other 9 before this. Go check it out if you haven't already in our shop. Why not? It's full of beautiful art, insights, recipes, art, and much more. It's very, very nice. Of course, I designed it, so it couldn't be anything more than perfect. Anyways, no, but
Speaking of recipes, you know what we should do? We should do a series where we cook the recipes
we
themselves.
should do a series where we cook
That'd be
the
amazing.
things. Oh my goodness, that's such a nice idea. So we were talking about this, and so as I said, now the publication of this, we say suspended because we are hopeful that in the future we will have enough time to be able to go back to it, because we love doing it. Basically what is gonna happen, we said it here and there, but we're focusing on community this year, right, for Glad Global. So expect being called to be guests on Polyglots Talk, and this is a threat. Yes.
That's right.
Exactly. And expect more events on Discord, some workshops and seminars, why not, and YouTube videos. most likely, especially from Ray. Ray is amazing. Ray made like a bunch of videos already. I will take a little
Ray
bit
is
of
in work mode.
Yeah, but Ray is in super. I said bish work mode. That's not make any sense. In super work mode. Super work mode. So much work mode that today.
I can't hear anything.
Oh, yes, can you hear? Now
Anna
you can.
is buffering.
I am. Can you hear me?
Wait, what? I can hear.
Ah, yes.
Okay,
no, it was you coding. It's okay.
So I'm sorry.
I could hear you perfectly. I was like, what? Anyways, yes. So Ray is working so much that today they weren't feeling that well, so that's why they're not here. But we're focusing on so many things still, but a little lighter. So we take our time. One important thing that I need to tell you, other than YouTube videos are coming soon, is that later today I'm sharing the Spotify links for the collaborative playlists of Spotify.
Yes.
So if you haven't already joined our Discord community, because I'm sending the links there. So I'm sending the links, but they are only available for 24 hours. So you need to click on it, become a collaborator, and save the playlist, and that's it. Then you will be able to add songs whenever you like for the rest of the time, for eternity. So the important thing is that you click on the link when I share it today, in the next 24 hours at least. And we have a playlist for every language, so you can add your music, your favorite music for every language. Our biggest playlist right now is the Japanese one, by the way. There are so many songs. Japanese and Korean, I believe. But we have a bunch of new ones, and if you want, you can also tell me to create a new language playlist for next time. We share these links every 2 months. I just want to say this because Sena-chan asked me about it, so I'm reassuring you I'm doing this today. I'm doing this today. Yes. Something else, Cody, that I'm forgetting, maybe?
So about the magazines as well, we want to encourage you guys, especially if you're new, just coming around, or you've joined within the last couple months. We have 10 issues of content that we are continuing to push to you guys, because we think that they're still really valuable, and we spent a lot of time working on it, and so we know what's inside and out of these things. So just as a refresher, we have issues that are geared around celebrating diversity and different minority cultures. We have an issue dedicated to language exchange, which I think is a pretty topical thing. Everyone in the community is always looking for other people to connect with. We have an issue based on growth, fresh perspective, the joy of reading. That one actually focuses on reading itself as a part of the language journey, and we know that can be challenging for some. We have the mastermind, we have the inner child, and we have the most recent cultural compass. So all of these will still be available on our Ko-fi site. You can buy them singularly, or you can buy them as part of a bundle, which we will have prepared. Do we have it prepared yet? Or
the big bundle not yet. It's coming very soon, but
it's coming. It's coming.
It's coming.
And also another thing to remember is that, of course, these aren't just magazines with articles, but they will also have recipes or interactive things like printables. I was actually thinking that was actually one of my favorite parts of this magazine. We have a map of Wanderlust printable, and we also have an article, a cultural article that is basically a travel diary from Mexico. And so that actually was really inspiring to me, the idea of kind of recording not only your interests but also the things you love about a space or the things you like to experience about a space. So that's one that mostly relates to me now, but you might be able to find something else throughout the rest of our 10 issue spread that relates to you. So please feel free to check those out on our website and ask questions if you need to in the Discord or on our socials.
Yes, and also now there's a very big delay, but I don't know if you guys noticed, there's a big delay between what we say and the chat, unfortunately, because this is YouTube. So we're gonna wait all right, my computer is making sounds. we're gonna wait another couple of minutes if you guys have some questions or something to ask before we end the stream. So feel free to write right now in the chat if you need. I want to take the last minutes to say big thank you to Jazz for coming as a guest today.
Yes.
It's a pleasure, my pleasure.
Thank
I'm glad
you
to be
very
here.
much.
Round of applause for
Yes,
you.
for Jazz. She's working so hard on everything. I am very inspired because people say that we were. Oh my God, Makcha, thank you very much. Look at that. Thank you for the donation. It's so interesting to me that you can donate in different currencies on YouTube. So I have no idea how much that is, but nonetheless, thank you very much for the big gesture. It means a lot for us. And yeah, no, so I was saying thank you very much for I was saying just work so much because people see how much we work at Gladly Global and they're like, oh my God, you're doing so much. But so many people in the community silently and secretly work so hard. And so right now I'm giving a thought to all the people that don't say anything maybe, or just give some hints sometimes, but work so hard in their lives for their own projects. Good job. You're doing great. Keep fighting, right? Yes. Thank you so much. I feel like I learned a lot. Thank you, Joanna, for being here. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Yes, I don't know, Jess, if you want to say something before closing the stream. If you have any other last thing you want to say.
I don't know, just thank you both for inviting me and for also allowing me to be a part of the magazine. I really enjoyed my experience, like contributing and working with you guys to write my article and get it in there. So yeah, thank you so much, both of you.
I'm glad. Thank you. And yes.
And believe us.
Yes, and thank you to Cody as well and me for being here. And we're here every first Saturday of the month, just saying. So you can find us here live, but we're gonna start publishing more videos. So definitely drop a follow or subscription, it's called in YouTube. So subscribe, leave a comment, even if you watch this live stream.
We still need to do our thumbnail, by the way.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. No worries, it's gonna be done. And then see you next month on another Polyglots talk. Bye bye. Ciao.
Bye.
Everyone, thanks for coming. Bye.